And we're all dancing. All right. Hello and welcome to Three Big Things, a CineBoiz, but not the CineBoiz podcast, part of the Cork Bats Podcast Network. I'm Kenny from Cork Bats, head boy of the CineBoiz, and Three Big Things is a podcast where I sit down with a guest or guests for an in-depth discussion on specific movies and TV shows. So why is it called Three Big Things? Well, that's simple. We're going to give you three big things, sometimes more, that we think make this movie or TV special or not so special. Hey, just heads up warning, this is not a spoiler-free podcast. So if you're looking to avoid spoilers on this movie, we recommend you stop watching now and go watch The Killer on Netflix. Although I will say this, not a lot to spoil.
Pretty much in the title.
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. You see the trailer and you pretty much get it. So if you haven't guessed by now, this week we're discussing The Killer, and I will be joined by two other CineBoiz today, starting with Mob. Bob, how are you? Wait, hold on, wait. KC Mob, how are you?
Howdy.
Good to see you.
You know, contrary to popular belief, I do watch movies, and I have seen this one.
I think there's going to be some shots fired on this podcast, and we'll get into that a little bit later. And I'm also joined by our good friend Kevin. Kevin, how are you? Meh. Good.
That's all I got.
Good
to see you guys.
I have this new camera
It's
set up.
Podcast.
Yeah, I have this new camera set up, and it looks like I'm looking right directly into the camera.
Do you have the one that like comes down that you can the eye level one? I've been getting ads for that one a lot lately. It hangs down into your screen, so it looks like you're staring people directly in the eyeballs.
So this is just the camera on my MacBook, and it is a lot better than my other camera that I bought for like $150 2 years ago. And I'm just going to be looking at you the whole time.
Technology.
So I apologize, but the picture quality is much better, I must say. So again, yes, we are going to discuss The Killer this week. So The Killer, if you've been living under a rock, just recently came out on Netflix, was in theaters for a few weeks before that. It is directed by the great David Fincher, who I would probably venture to guess all three of us would say David Fincher is probably one of our favorite directors.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt.
I can't name that many directors, period. So if I can name you, you're probably a person I enjoy.
Yeah. So it is based. Oh, go ahead.
When like 4 or 5 of his movies would be in like my top 50, I think I know who he is.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
If he didn't do anything else and just had Zodiac, he'd be one of my favorites.
Yeah, Zodiac's so good.
Might be. Fight Club was okay. That's my controversial opinion.
Wow, that is a hot take. Social Network's my favorite. If we're just going to throw out our favorite David Fincher movies real quick.
Social Network is definitely the best. It's not my favorite, but it's definitely the best.
I think that's right. Let's do a quick social clip where we all shit on the Social Network and then send it to some Fruit Boys. 1, 2, 3. Social Network, I don't know, kind of whatever.
Pretentious as fuck.
Dialogue was meh. I don't know.
Yeah. Who wrote that movie? He's a shitty writer.
Crazy.
I know who wrote it.
Timberlake
wrote
really?
it. Yeah.
So
yes,
love the movie.
The Killer is David Fincher's newest release. Is based on The Killer, I believe it's a graphic novel, if I'm not mistaken, or a short story by
a French graphic novel. Kenny.
Yes, that's it. Got it. Nailed it. And of course, it stars Michael Fassbender, Arliss Howard, Charles Parnell, and Tilda Swinton. Yeah, it's a good movie. I'll just go ahead and I'll say that before we get started. It's good. I enjoyed it. And contrary to some takes that are going around on the internet, I gave it 4 Swedish fish, which equates to 4 stars on corkbats.com. So, you can read our full review there. But yeah, so we'll just go ahead and dive in. So like I said, it's 3 big things. We're each going to give our one big thing that we took away from the movie. And let's go ahead and start with Kevin. Kevin, what is your big thing on The Killer?
Here's the thing about my big thing. We should let Mob go first because his big thing was my big thing.
And you got to,
but I want him to have it. And so I'll formulate as we're going. I have another, but his is better. Let's have Mob go.
Okay. Mob.
Because ours is kind of the same. The same.
Sure. Okay. Mob, what is your big thing on The Killer?
My big thing on The Killer is Netflix is hurting for money because the whole movie was product placement to like the max.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Go and
Like,
watch it. You got McDonald's, Starbucks, United, Air France, FedEx, this weird integrated Amazon Prime.
The Amazon one is what stopped me in my tracks. That's what really made me pause the movie and think.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like, I know Fincher does product placement. Like, you know, you see Starbucks and you think of Fight Club, like things like that. I get it. But for me, it was just like every scene, I was almost like, whoa, 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 that's a Dell computer. Oh, that's an Asus. Oh, look, it's Mac. Like, it was just everywhere.
The Amazon one's what really got me, because the others were passable. Like, they just mention McDonald's or they mention Starbucks. He's holding a Starbucks cup, whatever. But the Amazon one, they had the screen and like showing him ordering the fob thing. And I don't know, that one.
He went to an Aces.
Yeah,
there's Old English.
And we were talking pre-show how Netflix is starting to pop up as podcast sponsors, which I love sponsors and podcasts, but usually podcast sponsors aren't billion-dollar companies. They're usually like, hey, here's a nice quarter zip for your man, or hey, do you need to shave your nether regions, or it's so on and so on. It's not Netflix, and I don't know. I think they've lost a lot of subscribers.
I wonder if Netflix would be willing to, you know, maybe sponsor our podcast
if they wanted to.
Hey,
I'd be fine with it.
I'm open.
If they wanted to pay
the
for my
CineBoiz podcast at gmail.com.
Yes, that is an email address that does exist.
And it is monitored, believe it or not.
Really?
So,
is it?
I forgot about it until you just mentioned it. So I'm not the one monitoring it.
It's active and it's monitored.
Okay. So if you would like to email us, the CineBoiz podcast at gmail.com. Well, yeah, I mean, as far as like product placement goes, I'll be honest. Maybe I'm just super deep into
capitalist.
Super deep into late stage capitalism. But I really didn't notice it, except for McDonald's. That was really the only one. But it didn't. Really,
was a weird throwaway line about like, and this is where you can get your.
No, I mean he ate like I think he bought a McMuffin and threw away the.
He did the Michael Scott
part. Yeah, and
he did the Michael Scott.
Ate the meat.
Got rid of the carbs.
And egg. Like he eats McDonald's. It has the bag there. Like I bet if you went back and rewatched it, it would be like a glass shattering thing where you'd be like, oh wow.
And I know it was part of like setting up what they were going on, setting up in the like blending into the normal stuff. But it was like, and they listed how many daily serve customers McDonald's had and how many chains they had in France. And I was like, what is this? I don't know. It's funny. It's in a lot of movies, but for some reason was just caught off guard by this one.
I just think it's because there were so many, and like there were so many conflicting products, you know, like competitors, which makes me think that Fincher was just like, I don't care, I'm just doing it, putting it.
I need money to make this movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not like Netflix is. Well, maybe they are hurting for money, you know.
How much money do you think that movie cost to make?
$70 million. It wasn't like super complex.
It couldn't have been. Yeah, it couldn't have been.
There wasn't a lot going on. That's why I was thinking 175.
Okay, I was wrong.
Well, Fincher's most expensive movie ever.
That is actually shocking to me.
Hey, guys, inflation. We've seen crazy inflation the last few years.
That's a good point. Yeah, I would feel like a movie like Mank would be his highest, like biggest budget film to make, but
still never saw Mank.
Or maybe like Benjamin Button.
Yeah, you would think Benjamin Button. Benjamin Button would make sense.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Interesting. Well, you learn something new every day. So yeah, I mean, hopefully, if you listen to this first and then watch the movie, which we don't recommend, hopefully you don't get distracted by the product placement. But it's there.
And maybe that's just my pea brain, but it was
my pea brain.
It was shocking to me. Like I was like, I couldn't stop noticing all the different brands, and not just like, you know, like it was like their names showing up on the screen.
Yeah. Well,
I chuckled at the like $14 Amazon product that could copy a super secret safe billionaire apartment door.
That makes like walk in. That makes me feel very unsafe because my building has that system.
All fobs.
Yeah. And so the fact that somebody could just order something off Amazon and then make a copy of a fob to get in.
How many people are going to try that now?
I'm sure people already know. The people who want to do it already knew how to do it.
I mean, I'm probably gonna try and break into your house now.
That'd be cool. Be good to see you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Well, Mom, thank you so much. We really appreciate you. I'm glad you're here. And let's move on. I hope Kevin has thought of a big thing to bring to the table.
I do.
Okay. So, Kevin, what is your big thing on The Killer?
This is a small one. Just a quick note. This is Fassbender's best movie since Steve Jobs. I think it's been like a decade.
Oh, Fassbender. I was like,
not Fincher. No, okay. Fassbender. He has a string of really bad movies in the last 10 years. Yeah. I think it's actually I think it is because he was an X-Men, which was terrible. The Snowman, terrible. Assassin's Creed, holy cow. X-Men again. I mean, I think it's anyway. He needed this to be decent, and it was.
Yeah, not a great string of movies. Probably the past 8 years for Michael Fassbender up till now.
No, I'd say the last Steve Jobs was the last really good one. He did Slow West, which I really liked. Of course, there was 12 Years a Slave. Now we're just listing things, which is good podcasting.
Yeah.
But that's just my note. My actual big thing about this movie is, for some reason, more than other I'm going to avenge one person and kill everybody movies, this one really stuck out that the killer being mad about people killing was really funny to me. I don't know why. He was mad that because he killed the wrong person, that other killers came and tried to kill him. And so he was going to kill all the other killers. I don't know. That just, it made me chuckle on the inside. Pretty much just and that's not a new thing, but for some reason, his sense of I'm going to kill everybody seemed much less deserved. He shouldn't be able to feel that, unlike other movies like John Wick or
how dare you? How dare you bring in John Wick to the killer conversation?
If we want to segue,
how dare you?
John Wick takes, they want to get off their chest.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
Okay.
I'm saving it.
I'm just saying, how dare you?
I just thought
this
was really funny.
Get off?
A lot of times they have a shred of a leg to stand on. I feel like he had no legs to stand on for being mad about anything here.
Yeah,
which is a funny thing to talk about assassins, but I don't know. You're a killer and you're bragging about being a bat in 1,000, and then you just straight up shot a hooker instead.
Yeah, it's it's a movie about him essentially. The movie starts with him describing how he, the process of what it's like to be an assassin, essentially.
Basically, and then it's really boring.
And then he just screws up, and then the whole movie is him
screwing up.
Yeah.
Just he goes home. Oh, yeah. Thinking of that first scene where he's in that abandoned building, the WeWork one shocked me as well. That was the very first one, and it was what? What? WeWork? Huh?
Yeah.
I don't know. Clearly, I'm not over it, but
yeah, it obviously left an impression on you, both of you. Yeah.
Well, yeah. In John Wick, he has I feel like he wasn't doing anything to anybody. He had reason going to rampage. What's fair. The Denzel the Equalizer? He has a reason. He's protecting somebody. This one, just you shot the wrong guy, and now they're trying to shoot you. I don't know.
I don't know if
I'm poking holes.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily that they were going after him. I think
they were scrubbing the.
I think it's that they went after his partner, girlfriend, wife, whatever she was.
But it was supposed to be him. It wasn't even supposed to be her.
Right, so, but you could just have left her alone.
Also, he's clearly a psychopath that has no emotions, and yet he's got deep feelings about this woman. I don't know. That didn't make sense to me either.
Hey, man, he leaves work at work.
Right. Yeah, he really does.
Yeah,
he does. Good for him.
That's all he's doing. Well, yeah, Kevin, good take. Good big thing.
There was a line about him being mad at somebody about having to bring work home.
Yeah,
somewhere in there.
He's just like us,
Yeah, just working a 9 to 5.
Yeah, exactly.
People.
Exactly.
Also, why do you have to kill that taxi cab driver? That was crazy.
Oh, he had no witnesses, bro.
Right.
I guess that just seemed like.
So the inner monologue thing kind of bothered me because it was very heavy inner monologue.
Yeah,
with
it was
just
all
the
in our monologue.
Fassbender voiceover, and like the first 15 minutes of the movie being just his voiceover with the scene, like things going on in the background. I didn't love it, but it was kind of cool in that instance where he was like going through the rules and like having that. I did enjoy that part of it.
No empathy. Bang.
Yeah.
Guy's dead.
Yeah.
Stick to the plan.
Because it was cool because in, later on with the secretary, he's going through it and you can kind of tell he's like, well, do I show empathy here? Nope. Push down the stairs.
Yeah.
So for me, it worked in those instances, but like the first 15 minutes, I was just kind of like,
I think that was the meanest death of all of them, the most brutal one, because she knew she was going to die for so long.
Yeah.
Right.
Probably hours.
Yeah.
Like the 3 nails to the chest, pretty badass way to kill somebody. Also really painful way to die, but it was over in like a minute. She was really dragged out.
Yeah.
Feel for that lady.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Kevin, thank you for your big thing. Appreciate that. So I'll round it out, and it's already been talked about, but I feel like my big thing, if you've read our review on corkbats.com or if you've seen the Instagram reel that we put out, I kind of went through some things about the movie, and one of the big things that I had mentioned was that it is John Wick, David Fincher style. So I need to clarify this real quick. I don't mean in any way to necessarily say that this movie's like John Wick, although there are some clear instances in the movie that feel like, oh, that's kind of like a John Wick thing. Not necessarily the stylized violence or anything like that. They are two completely different movies. Let me be very clear. What I was trying to say was that if David Fincher were to make John Wick, this is what John Wick would be. Is a David Fincher version of, an assassin out for revenge. And
Dialogue heavy, not as much violence.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's not an action movie. Well,
technically, but there's not like chase scenes.
It's not an action movie. It's
not really an
action
action
movie.
No,
there's violence and blood and stuff. But
very short burst. The most action packed part was when he went to kill the Florida goon.
Yeah, and that's a great scene. It's a great fight scene. It's not a John Wick fight scene by any means. Yeah,
and we're getting at the fact that Billy Rock of the Apple Boys called Kenny out for comparing these two movies, and in the podcast he made the point to say not every movie that has a stylized fight film is John Wick. No, duh. No one's saying that.
That's what we're saying. Like, I mean, we're essentially making the opposite point.
But here's the thing: when watching the movie with my wife, he goes in to the hospital where his girlfriend, partner, whatever, is all cut up, and my wife goes, "Oh, there's his puppy," and then not 5-10 minutes later, he's seen digging up an arsenal of guns.
Yes, that's exactly the moment in the movie. As I was watching it, I was like, "Oh, this is like if David Fincher made John Wick."
And that happened well before any stylized fight scene.
Yeah, there's no fight scene up to that point. There's really only one fight scene in the whole movie, and it's nothing like John Wick. So like, I just am, with Billy, if you're listening to this, I just want you to know, like, I feel like you are coming undone. You are unhinged. You're off your rocker. There is no reason for you to get as upset as you did, because it's simply saying, hey, I mean, I'm all for the beef, beef makes for great content. But
when he says that we don't watch movies, he's not totally wrong. Let's be honest.
No, he's definitely not wrong.
Like he watches a lot of movies.
To be fair, he made some really good points about us in general.
But I do watch movies, just not at the rate that most people who are on movie podcasts watch movies. Okay.
I think that's fair. I think that's absolutely fair. So
I
Billy,
will say I was glad that he didn't kill the dog. I was afraid he was going to shoot him for a minute.
I was very happy about the situation with the dog as well. Yeah. I remember sitting
like there was a scene where the dog was passed out of sleep and he paused and looked at her, and I was like, "Don't do it! Don't, please, don't do it."
Let the dog. And then dog didn't do anything.
I hope the dog survived that massive fire that he lit.
Oh, the dog for sure. The dog was outside.
Yeah,
100%
but it was a
okay.
caged area. Like, I don't know.
It's fine. The dog was absolutely
Hey,
fine.
That was the only like life I was actually worried about in the entire movie was that dog.
I think that's
yeah.
the magic of this part of the movie
Humans,
is we get to
whatever.
decide that the dog
The
lived.
dog lives.
Yeah. I know the dog lived. I know for a fact.
I was very sad for the dog. I was like, oh, its owner's dead. Like, that's a real bummer.
Yeah, but he kind of sucked.
Yeah.
But to a dog,
That's true.
99% of
But
owners through a dog's eyes are like the best.
I understand that, but like also that dog is probably going to bite a child, and it's not the dog's fault, it's the owner's fault.
Yeah, that's
fair.
Right.
That was clearly
like
a protective dog.
it's one of those types of dogs where it's like you're gonna be an aggressive dog who's gonna bite the wrong person, and it's not your fault. It's your owner's fault.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's talking pets.
So that's talking pets. And so yeah, to Billy, if you're listening, look, it's not a crazy take. And I'm not the only one who had the take. In fact, I'm not the only one on this podcast or on Twitter who had that take. It was actually a pretty common
I think
take
3
on
of the
Twitter.
4 of us came to that take like kind of organically.
Yeah.
Right?
I think
2.
a lot of people probably do come to that take organically. And it's not to say that, David Fincher was trying to make John Wick. That's not what I was saying. I was saying that if David Fincher did make John Wick, this is what John Wick would be.
This is as close as it would get.
And I like it. And I'll go ahead. I'll just say it. And this might even be unpopular. I like it better than the John Wick films.
Whoa. Not me.
There it is.
No, not me either.
That's fair.
I'll say this much. I'll say this much.
I'm a cotton-headed mini muggins.
If Todd Phillips had made The Killer, I bet people would be saying, "Oh man, he ripped off John Wick."
Nobody's saying David Fincher ripped off John Wick.
Right? No, I'm
kidding. I think that's
that's my Joker joke.
Let's start a rumor.
Let's start a rumor.
Did Fincher rip off John Wick?
Did Fincher
People
rip
are
off John
saying
Wick?
that, I think.
People are asking.
No, I don't want to put that on David Fincher. I like David Fincher.
Yeah, David Fincher's the man.
But I also thought this was just like a middling David Fincher movie.
I would say as well, it wasn't my favorite David Fincher movie.
Even though I still scored it 4 out of 5 stars on my personal letterbox, Butt Soup, look me up. It's middle of the pack. I think it's fair.
I haven't been on Letterboxd in a while.
I letterboxed this movie too.
I need to.
I letterbox things because people ask me what movie I've seen recently, and I literally can't tell them. I'm like, I don't know. I have to look at this. And get back to you.
My appreciation for the moment of when Tilda Swinton was compared to a Q-tip is so high, so high.
Solid.
Like that was to me my favorite part of the movie.
That was a good scene.
It was so funny.
Yeah. There's a lot of funny parts in the movie too. I think it's what kind of sets it apart. Like it is very
weirdly
dark,
funny,
but there are a lot of I saw it in the theater, so there were several scenes in the movie where the theater was laughing. So yeah, there's a lot of levity in the film. If that's what you're into, if you just need some levity in some dark moments, I recommend The Killer. So that being said, those are our 3 big things. So let's just go through real quick, and I'm just going to ask a simple question. I'll start with Mob. Mob, would you recommend this movie?
Yeah, sure. Like I just like, I don't know. I think there's this like discourse between it where it's like people are like, why don't people love this movie? And other people are like, why do people love this movie? And I'm just like in the middle of that discourse. Like it was good. It's worth a watch. It's just like I have such a high standard for Fincher movies because he's made, like I said, probably 5 of his are in my top 50. And so like I have that standard. This isn't going to be in that. But it's not Mank, so we're all winners.
It's a good streaming watch.
I think so. We're all winners.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Well, cool.
So
Mob. Yes. Mob recommends. And then Kevin, would you recommend this movie?
Yeah, same caveats as Mob. I'd recommend this movie with. I'd recommend it as a Netflix movie, which is kind of like, Netflix movies not always the best, but for a Fincher on Netflix, I'll take it.
Fincher on Netflix, baby,
all day.
And yeah, I think I'm just gonna echo both of those sentiments. I agree. I think it is a good movie. I think it's worth a watch. I do think that it's I did see it in the theater, and I did like seeing it in the theater. But in all honesty, I don't think it's a movie that you need to see in a theater. I think it stands on its own for what it is by streaming on Netflix at home. So, it's an easy recommendation in that regard to say, like, yeah, like you can just pop it on Netflix and watch it. I think it's a good movie. I would say that it might crack my top 10 of 2023. I'm not 100% sure on that yet. Still a lot of movies to come out yet, including The Iron Claw, which I feel like is going to be my favorite movie of 2023. I read something about The Iron Claw that said it's this year's Manchester by the Sea.
Oh, no. That's personally devastating to me.
Which, if you know anything
you probably
about...
just made me not want to... I'm probably not going to watch it now.
Well, okay, so if you know anything about the Von Erich family, the famous wrestling family,
it kind of makes sense that it would be
that tracks. So, but this isn't about the Iron Claw. This is about the killer. Yes, I would recommend it. Highly recommend it.
One thing
for review at home.
Yeah, and one thing that we didn't bring up, but you did bring up in your three big things that needs to be stated again: the score.
Oh, the score. Yeah,
just
we'll just figure out fourth big thing.
Right. It's amazing.
Yeah, like so good.
Like they do in all Fincher movies. Like, just kill it, and I love it.
A lot of really unsettling sounds that really set the tension, and great.
Their process for how they make or score a film or TV show is fascinating. I don't know if you've ever seen. There was a special feature on the Social Network Blu-ray back in the day.
Didn't catch that one. Go ahead, tell us about it.
Had a whole feature on them making the score for the Social Network, which to this day is probably one of my favorite film scores ever. It in the way they do it is just like, hey, that's a weird sound. Let's make something. With
pretty
that,
much
essentially. So yes, the score for this movie is really, really good. I would say, and like I said in my review, like it's not necessarily anything groundbreaking for them. It's their typical stuff. But it is still very good, and it fits the vibe of the film very well. So shout out to Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
This was a really weird thought that I had in the beginning chapter where he's in the abandoned WeWork looking out across the French hotel or whatever that is. Did you guys ever see Addicted to Love with Matthew Broderick? It was a 90s movie.
I don't think so.
Okay, then this is... But it's basically he lives in like an abandoned apartment across the street from his girlfriend in Paris, and he just spies on her because she's got a new boyfriend. And I was like, why do I think this is the same movie so far? Because he had like a scope and everything. And at some point, Meg Ryan shows up. That's all I really remember about it. Anyway.
Do you think
sounds
David
like a movie
Fincher,
Meg Ryan would show up in?
Do you think David Fincher pulled straight from that movie for this one?
Yeah, from that scene, I was like, I think he just ripped this off. He cowboyed this.
He must have watched Addicted to Love recently. Yeah. Well,
it's the Shia LaBeouf movie. That's the one he ripped off.
Furry?
Yes. Furry. Was it Eagle Eye or Suburbia?
Eagle Eye.
Rip off. No, not Eagle Eye.
Suburbia.
Disturbia.
Like the Rihanna song that came out about the same time.
Yes.
Yeah, and that movie didn't rip off another movie. So
absolutely not. It did not. So yeah, that's gonna do it for us here at the CineBoiz for Three Big Things. I'm really glad you guys were able to join me today. And yeah, I mean my notes here say outro and plugs, and usually I leave that to our guests, but I mean, we're the CineBoiz podcast. You can follow us anywhere podcasts can be found, so be sure to listen to us. Also, you can watch our videos on demand on YouTube, which is youtube.com/corkbats. And then, yeah, follow us on social media at CineBoiz on Twitter and Instagram, and also be sure to follow Corkbats on Twitter and Instagram at Corkbats. That's going to do it. You guys got anything else you want to say?
Fire Mo.
Go Chiefs.
Fire Mo, go Chiefs.
Oh, Fire Mo, go Chiefs.
I just have to wait for the song to end.
Bop, bop, ba-da, 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 ba-da.